the blank. You're not getting any younger. So
Start loving with an open heart. You have the tools and the resilience to get back up if it doesn't work out.
hey, you. Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey, any youngers, it's me, your host, Jen Glantz. Welcome back to another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. Happy February, my dear friends. We all know what this month has a nickname for. It's the month of love. It's the month of Valentine's Day. It's also the month of just feeling super lonely, super weird, super all of these things, whether or not you are in a relationship. February for me has always been a historic month of just looking back on life and feeling all these different things. It's interesting because I'll never ever forget the date of February 12th, 2016, because on that day, my best friend at the time and I went to a single Valentine's Day party. And it was a party where you had to buy tickets and you went hoping to maybe meet somebody, but it was a party. It was at this really cool ping pong place in Union Square in Manhattan. And we go to this party and there's a psychic there, and for free, or for part of your ticket price, you can meet with the psychic. So my friend and I waited in line for almost an hour and a half. And when it was finally my turn to meet the psychic, I sat down, she read my palm, she pulled a couple tarot cards, and she looked at me and said, "I have news for you." And I thought, oh, I can't wait. At that point I had been single for a couple of years. I had been dating a bunch of people, just like trying to figure out life. And I was like, she's going to tell me exactly who I'm going to meet. She's going to tell me where I'm going to find this person. This is my secret. This right here is worth the entire price of admission. And when she finally opened her mouth to speak, she said to me, and this is an exact quote that I will never forget. This will live rent-free in my brain for quite some time. She said to me, "I have news for you. You are not ever going to find love. You will be single forever." And I remember hearing that, asking her to try again, give me any other answer but that type of doomsday. And she said, no. She's like, "You're never going to find love. Like, you're going to be very similar to me and just be alone forever." And I remember in slow motion almost getting up from the table, turning to my friend and just wanting to collapse. I mean, that's not news that you ever want to hear from anybody, but you don't want to hear from a psychic who's supposed to see the future. And that was a pivotal moment on that day of February 12th, 2016. That was a pivotal moment because if you know me, and listener, you get to know me as you listen to this show, but if you know me, you know that I have a problem with listening to what other people have to say to me. I don't really listen to advice. I don't really listen to what anyone says. I just don't. I question everything. I challenge everything. So when that was said to me, I said, I need to prove this psychic wrong. And what I did was on February 13th, I created a promise to myself. It was a secret challenge. I didn't tell anybody, where I would go on 14 first dates over the course of a month. So that was my challenge. That was my goal, 14 first dates. And a lot of why I did that was because I just felt like I can't let this psychic be right. And for her not to be right, I have to change my patterns, change my behavior. I don't know, just do something different, find ways to make dating not so awkward. So I began going on these 14 first dates, and I didn't meet anybody that I ever wanted to see again. It was pretty brutal. I would do 3 or 4 dates a day, usually on a Saturday. By the end of the day, they were all coffee dates. I was so wired on caffeine. And I would just come home and tell Carrie, my roommate, how defeated I felt. I had no voice left. I couldn't remember what stories I had told 16 times that day. And it was rough. And I kept thinking, okay, this psychic is right. I am going to be alone forever. So what does that even look like? Should I just start accepting that? And after date 14 happened, I went to delete my dating apps because I was like, look, 14 was my quota. I did it and I didn't meet anybody. And after you go on 14 dates, especially in 1 month, you sort of get this idea that, maybe you're not supposed to meet somebody because 14 dates is a lot of dates. So I go to delete the dating apps and I see on one of the apps I have an outstanding message. And it's from somebody who I don't remember looking at their profile. I don't really know who they are. But the message basically said like, hey, Jen, our match is about to expire. So if you are interested in meeting me, here's my phone number. And I thought to myself, this person must be crazy because why in the world, after I just went on 14 dates, would I want to go on a 15th date? And not only that, why would I want to initiate the date and text that person? Like, no way am I going to put in extra effort to meet anybody at this point in my life. But for some reason, I kept hearing that psychic's voice in my head saying, you're going to be alone, you're going to be alone, you're never going to find love. And the inner fire inside of me to prove that wrong took that phone number and texted it. And I said in the text message, hey, it's Jen from the app. If you want to meet me at this coffee shop tomorrow. It was a Sunday at 12 o'clock. And the person simply wrote, sure, I'll see you then. And meanwhile, I was in such a daze and a funk and all of these things. I was feeling so hopeless that I didn't really look at this person's profile. So I sort of remembered a little bit about what they looked like. So I knew who I was meeting, but I didn't take the time to read their profile. I didn't take the time to have any emotion about them. I certainly had doubts about the whole situation. But I figured, okay, what's a date 15? And if date 15 doesn't work, we're going to call it quits. Like, we are going to just end this process. We're going to find that psychic and say, thanks for the advice. You were right. You are the most epic psychic. Let me leave you a Yelp review. But I end up going on this date. And it's at a coffee shop. It was on a freezing cold day. And I remember just sitting there waiting for the person to show up in like the most miserable mood. I didn't even have a smile on my face at this point. And they walk in the door. And I had never in my life seen a person walk through the door with this excited and fun and energetic smile. I mean, I literally felt like I was in a movie where it's slow-mo and the door swings open and there's like a soundtrack playing behind the person. And the person walks in, they offer to get me a drink. I got a little chai latte and we sit down, and about 20 minutes into this first date, I keep thinking, oh shoot, Jen. I'm like, oh my God, I should have brushed my hair for this. Like, I need to sit up straight. I had gum in my mouth while I was drinking the chai latte. I had to take it out. I was a mess. So long story short, date 15 ended up being Adam. And if you know the name Adam, you know that is my now fiance, was date 15. So all I have to say is so many things. But the first thing I do have to say is that psychic was wrong. And whether or not you have your own version of a psychic, maybe it's an ex, maybe it's somebody in your life telling you that you will not find something that you want to find, I want you to know right now that they are completely wrong. And maybe you're the person telling yourself that you won't find something, but you're wrong too. And just because you feel that way, because you feel so defeated or because you've had so many broken hearts, I just want you to know that you are wrong. And because it is the month of love, however you want to say it, I wanted to bring on a guest this month in the dating space, but I didn't want to bring on another dating coach because we've had them before, and I didn't want to bring on a love expert because we've had them before. I mean, we even had somebody on the show who was like a dating expert who compared everything in dating to starting a business. Like, we've had some creative love experts on the show, but I wanted to bring somebody on who was different, who was real, whose advice would be a game changer for really anybody, whether you were single or married or divorced or dating. Like, I wanted the advice to be super powerful to all of you, my listeners, all of you. And to do that, I found somebody who's actually been a guest on the show before. This is a guest I had when I first started the podcast super early on, and we talked about dating and romance and love back then. But since then, she's done a lot in a different category in the love space, in the breakup category. So today's guest is Amy Chan, and she is the founder of Breakup Bootcamp, which is a retreat that takes a scientific and spiritual approach to healing the heart. Amy recently wrote a book that is now out there on the bookshelves, on the Amazons, on the Barnes & Noble, called Breakup Bootcamp. And it's incredible. I mean, the book is a great testament for anyone to read who wants to sort of understand why they feel certain things they feel about past relationships or even just past things that happened when you were a child. It also helps you understand that the key to healthy love is self-love. And Amy defines that in a very unique but actionable and realistic kind of way. I also ask Amy some burning questions that I have had that I think about quite often when it comes to love and old love and all of these things. And she did an incredible job answering them pretty straightforward and honestly as well. Amy calls herself the chief heart hacker. And I love that because we hear the word hacking and we hear it in so many different areas of our lives, but we never really hear it about our own heart, our own feelings, and our own emotions. So I'm super excited for you to listen to this week's episode with Amy Chan, the founder of Renew Breakup Bootcamp and the author of Breakup Bootcamp, Amy the Heart Hacker. And if you like this episode, which, I hope you do, definitely give us a shout out, give us a review on iTunes, say hello, send some love, share this episode all over social media. You can tag me at Any Younger, at Jen Glantz. You could also tag Amy at Miss Amy Chan. I'll put her information in the notes below and share it with anyone that you know who might really need this information because it's powerful, it's awesome, and I think you'll enjoy what you're about to hear. And as always, come hang out with us inside of the secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group. There are so many people inside of that group who are waiting to meet you and give you a virtual high five. Hope you enjoy the episode. All my love, Jen Glantz. Today's episode is brought to you by Jen and Juice Coaching by yours truly. For the past 5 years, I've worked with over 100 people to help them feel, less stuck. Whether you're looking to change careers, start a side hustle, or just get a strategy for your life, head on over to jenglantz.com/coaching and you can find out about my 1-hour coaching specials that will help you feel like you can finally cross those things off your to-do list and start whatever kind of project, life change, or dream that you have.
So happy to be back.
Yay, I'm so excited to have you. And to give you a formal introduction, I'm going to ask you the question I like to ask all of the guests when they first come on the show. How would you describe who you are and what you do to a person you just met at a party?
I am a heart hacker. I understand the psychology and science behind relationship patterns, and I help people have healthier relationships, particularly after a breakup.
I love that. And I love the term heart hacker because we hear the term hacker everywhere. You can hack all different parts of your life. You can hack everything, but we never hear about it with our own heart. And I want to talk about this because even people who have had really serious relationships or people who have really never been in a relationship before, they all have things they carry with them. So what exactly does it mean to be a heart hacker for people out there who might be experiencing some sort of heartbreak?
Yeah. So I look at it as looking at your patterns, looking at the wiring, the programming, right? Because we were all born from a place of love. We were born connected, and then life happens. And we experience either small trauma or big trauma. And we develop these beliefs that become really embedded in our subconscious minds, right? When we're between the ages of 0 to 7, our brains are like a sponge, and something can happen. Maybe your mom forgot to pick you up at school. You got rejected from the soccer club, and you don't even remember the actual memory when you grow up, but you have an emotional memory of it. And so you carry around this anxiety of rejection or abandonment, and you don't understand why. So heart hacking is really getting to the root of the issues before we dissect the symptoms of the problem.
I truly love it because I feel like for a lot of people, especially women, we go through so much in our lives and then we get into these relationships and the people we date call us names. So we label all of our problems, everything that we have by these names we've been given by exes or current people we're dating, whether it's, wow, you're crazy, you're emotional, you're all of these things. And I feel like that without a heart hacker, without someone like you or a book like you have, or all of the things you offer, we start to believe those words. So how can people who are listening right now who have these feelings of all these words they've been given throughout relationships get away from those words?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, know that you're not broken. And I say this because I spent most of my life thinking I was broken. I was able to succeed in my career. I had great friends, but the one area of my life I, couldn't was matters of the heart. And I felt like I was crazy. I felt like something was wrong with me. And that's kind of what propelled me to begin a career in relationships was I was like, okay, if I could just figure this out, then maybe I'll fix myself. And so I want to really reiterate to everyone, you're not broken. You might have some faulty programming that needs to be looked at and tweaked. And so I think when you look at it that way, it kind of gives some separation versus this being a slight on you as a human being or your self-worth. It's understanding that there's patterns and you can reprogram those patterns. So you can take a more empowering approach.
How do you feel about the term heartbroken? I'm just curious to know, like, how do you feel about that? Because so many people are like, I'm so heartbroken. So how do you feel about that term?
So the reason why people say things like, I feel like my heart has broken, I feel like I've been stabbed in the heart is because there's actually, something going on. There's some people that can get what's like a heart attack from heartbreak. And that's why also when you're going through the thick of, the grief of a separation, if you take a Tylenol, you'll actually feel a little bit better. So there are physical sensations on a biological level that happen after you are in a separation. Now, I look at heartbreak as you're just bruised. I think that's more empowering language. I, thought I was heartbroken so many times, but when I look back, I was like, I was just bruised and I was able to bounce back from that. And that helps me now in my present and my future. I know that no one will ever break my heart. I'm not going to give my heart to someone to break. And that's very different. I used to give everything away. My entire foundation I was standing on was based off someone's validation of me. So yeah, that's why I felt like the rug was ripped out from underneath me when it didn't work out. So I think the language we choose is very important. We don't think it has an effect, but every single day you repeat these words or these limiting beliefs and your subconscious picks it up and it doesn't forget. And sooner or later, you're weaving a narrative of your life.
I love hearing that because again, I know I've been victim of this too, where I label myself as something as damaged as to this, to that, because of things I've just picked up along the way. And that's why I personally felt so drawn to the content of your book, Breakup Bootcamp, which is a book that, might by the title sound like it's for single people, but it's for everyone. I mean, I'm not single, but I took so much from it. And it's for people who are single, who are divorced, who are dating, who are in long-term relationships. So when you were writing this book, why did you choose to have all of these different audiences in mind?
Well, here's the thing. Even with my actual retreats, Breakup Bootcamp, people come thinking they're there because of their ex. And they realize when they leave, it's not about the ex, it's recycled pain. The breakup often, it's traumatic. There's infidelity, there's ghosting, whatever it is. That's usually, the tipping point, right? And it's a band-aid that's ripped off. And then you have to deal with all of that heartbreak that wasn't dealt with from before, all that compound trauma, often a lot of that stemming from your childhood. And it's all at once. And you think, oh my gosh, it's because of my ex. And so, I think that breakups are a catalyst for people because generally, if you're in a relationship or even a job that's like, okay, it's not that great, but it's not really what you want, you're going to stay in it because human beings like what's familiar and comfortable. And so there's not enough pain for you to actually choose the anxiety of the unknown. When a breakup happens or you get fired from your job, you are now thrown into so much pain, it's unbearable that you have no choice but to make a change. And so I'm excited for people when they go through a breakup because I know sometimes that's a shakeup. You need to redirect your life. But the book is not about breakups. It's about your relationship patterns. And just like one of the first rules of the book and of Breakup Bootcamp, the actual retreats, don't vilify your ex because it's not about your ex. We need to put on our scientist hat and examine the patterns and the data so that we can get real honest with the subconscious patterns that are causing the same emotional experiences to repeat just with different people.
There's a line early in the book that I loved. It made me stop for a while and really think about everything. And you write that the majority of the people we date are not the destination, but the bridge. But after we cross these bridges, we realize it's not about the person, it's about self-love, which is really what you just said right here. Is we always think about the ex, we always talk about that person, but you also say that a lot of healthy love starts with self-love. And I want to define that very clearly, because people confuse self-love with self-care, with getting facials, with face masks, with all of these things. So I want to hear how Amy defines self-love at its core.
Yeah, so I don't think of self-love like this magical island that you just land on by saying positive affirmations you saw on like a cool Instagram quote. I believe that it is a practice that you make, and it's in the choices that you make on a daily basis. So say every day you say, let's for number, easy numbers, 100 decisions a day. Those decisions can be either rooted in self-love and or self-hatred, right? So when I wake up in the morning, I know when the very first thing I do is just look at my emails, it starts me off in anxiety. And that usually trickles out throughout my day. I know that when I start my day off, 10 minutes meditation, it really just sets the tone for the day. And so I have the opportunity and the power to choose that. Today, I chose self-love. Yesterday, I didn't, right? And so I think that when you look at it that way, you realize that you can start at any moment. You can start right now versus you have to get to this magical place. And only when you're in full of self-love can you, be in a relationship. I also don't think that's true either. When, I was single for 5 years before I met my partner, and it was really easy to not be triggered because I never was in a dynamic where someone saw the real me and I had to move through the ups and downs of a relationship and being vulnerable. It wasn't until I was in a relationship where I was like, wow, like, okay, I got to deal with how I'm triggered. How do I talk about things like money when I'm uncomfortable? Oh, this stuff is coming up. But you don't know that until you actually go through it.
Yeah, it's so fascinating too, because for a lot of times, like during that time we're single, we don't always think about those things. And then we enter the relationship and all of these things come out to haunt us. I remember when I started dating Adam, maybe 3 or 4 weeks into dating, he sort of said to me like, "Oh, I love you," or something like that. And I literally said back to him, "You don't know me. And once you get to know me, you will not love me anymore." And we've been together 5 years now, but like I literally said that to him because I didn't realize until I was in that relationship. I had thought I had done so much work on myself. When I got into that relationship with him, I thought, wow, like I'm carrying so much with me that I have been hiding for a very long time. So you're right. Sometimes things even come out when you enter that new relationship. I
Yeah.
had two questions I just couldn't stop thinking about when I was reading the book and thinking about you that I personally wanted to know. And these are questions that I think about quite often when I'm alone and it's late and I'm just wondering and thinking about exes. Number one, do you think the pain of a relationship ever leaves you? Even if that relationship was 4 years ago, do you think the pain ever leaves your body?
I think that it can transform. If you don't deal with it, I don't think it leaves your body. I think it comes out in different ways. And that's what I mean when I talk about compound trauma. Um, I notice with my work, I notice how men and women deal with breakups differently. I find men have more of a tendency to distract, push down emotions, and avoid. And what I also see is 6 months, a year down the road, those emotions, that pain catches up. Either it's in their next relationship or they have regrets. So, those emotions, they need oxygen to breathe. And so I think it's important that we process them. Now, when I say that it can transform, I don't think pain is bad. I think they are messengers. And if you actually listen to what the pain is telling you, when it's whispering, but what happens is a lot of times we just push it away until that whisper turns into a major scream. And so I think that, yeah, you can transform it. I mean, heck, this morning I ran into my ex at the coffee shop and, we're good friends now. So, and we talked about my book and if he had read my book, and he's like, I actually, didn't read it because, it made me feel like some emotions come up. And I'm like, totally honor that. Like, you don't need to read it. But like, I think that our love has taken a different form, right? It's not a romantic love, but there's still love there. So I think pain can take a different form. Love can take a different form. It's energy.
Do you think a person should stop looking up their ex in the future. So, you know, all of us, whether we admit it or not, we do look at our exes. We go on their social medias years later and see what they're up to. And even if it doesn't hurt us anymore, we're still curious. Maybe a part of us wants to know if they're okay. Do you think that that's healthy, or do you think you should just sort of cut it all off and have no communication with them, especially if you don't communicate in real life with them?
I think the question anyone who wants to look up their exes on social media, a question you need to ask yourself is this serving me? Am I being kind to myself? And that is going to give you the answer. You know, and also if you're in a relationship, something I've really found interesting, and this is a Kabbalist teaching, and I'm probably going to botch it by trying to paraphrase it, but every action, there is a ripple effect. There's a connection. So you might think that, oh, I'm just going to do this harmless thing, and I'm not I'm not directly affecting my current partner. I'm not doing anything bad, but energy is all connected. And so I really believe in that. And it's not like I haven't had curiosity of, that one ex that, didn't have a closed loop, right? A hot and crazy relationship that ended in month 2, right at the peak of it, and you don't hear from them. Your brain has an open loop. So it's very natural for you to be curious, right? Because we don't like unfinished business. But when I've had those cravings, like, should I just, check their Instagram? I've even had dreams like, oh, I'll be like, why am I doing that? And that is going to have a ripple effect in my current relationship. And I stop myself.
You're so right. It's like, you have to, what is it gonna give you? And I do like that visualization of the loop, and the loop being so unclosed sometimes. And those are sometimes the most painful relationships to fully let go. Amy, I could talk to you forever, but before we go, I have a couple more questions. I want you to share with everyone where they can learn more about you and the book and everything you have going on. Where can people find out everything? And we'll link to it all as well.
Yeah. So renewbreakupbootcamp.com is my website. My book, Breakup Bootcamp, The Science of Rewiring Your Heart, is available at all bookstores. If you buy it on Amazon, please write me a review. And on Instagram, follow me at Miss Amy Chan.
I love it. And we're going to end this interview like we ended all of them before, even though I knew you were on. I'm going to ask you to fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger. So
start loving with an open heart. You have the tools and the resilience to get back up if it doesn't work out.
I love it. And I adore you, Amy. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yay.
Oh. Hey, you. Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.